Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Will today be a good day, bad day, who knows? But we are reading a fic today, a one shot in fact. Hello, I'm Pen, and today we're going to be reading I Do Not Have Wings, Love Nor Will I Ever. This is a angsty angsty Sokoku fic. So I've read too many Shinsokoku fics, so I just instantly go to that. But anyway, this is a regular Sokoku fic, which if you don't know is Dazai and Chuya of the Pingo Stray Dogs fandom. Anyway, out with the ranting. This will have a couple of trigger warnings, and just want to set that out first. So here are the trigger warnings: self-harm, eating disorders, body dysmorphia, a mild panic attack, and mentions of physical abuse. Now, I did not pick up on the mentions of physical abuse in my first read around, and honestly I've done one read around, so I don't know if I'll notice it this time, but just wanted to set that all out there, because just be careful everyone. I know how bad fics can get to mess with your head, but anyway, that's a story for another time. This is a trans-masked Dazai fic, and I've never seen one of them before. Probably haven't been looking in the right spots, but I just thought this was amazing. Anyway, this is by Theo the Ghost, and here's a summary. Dazai almost has a breakdown, but he deals with it in an extremely unhealthy way. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into the fic. It's quite a long one. A single slither of light escapes through the shutters, Dazai watching dust swirl around and fall like it's snow. It feels like it's been hours since he awoke. Maybe it really has been. He's not quite present enough to take much notice of the passage of time. At first he's in denial, tried to fall back asleep and wake up, restart his day with more vigour. But to no avail. His eyes won't stay closed and his brain won't shut up. He feels like a rusty mechanical doll, heavy and disfigured. He's alone. There's an empty space behind him in the bed he and Chuya share. Dazai tries not to let himself feel abandoned. The rational part of his brain knows that Chuya probably left for work early and just didn't want to wake him up. Plus, out of the two of them, only Dazai has the tendency to run away. Chuya is too loyal to do something like that. However, it would only be fair for the redhead to return the favour. He'd understand completely if Chuya woke up and decided that he was tired of Dazai being a constant nuisance, and the phone on the bedside table vibrates. It's a text from Chuya. Sorry I ran off without saying goodbye. Boss had me handling some urgent stuff. I'll tell you about it later. I'll be home in a couple of hours. Dazai texts back and alright, don't die please. While he's at it, Dazai sends a text to Kunikita saying he won't be able to come into work today just because he didn't want to. Dazai puts his phone on Do Not Disturb mode and places it back on the table. He has his suspicions as to what job Chuya has to get done. A new gang had been rising in the ranks over the past couple of months. They're not big enough to pose a potential threat to Yokohama, but 2 weeks ago, by some miracle, they took hold of a small faction of Port Mafia territory. And that was their mistake. The Port Mafia decided to retaliate. However, too many men were killed in the action or heavily injured yesterday, a waste of resources in Mori's eyes, so he deployed his best weapon. This gang was no threat to Chuya, so Dazai wasn't worried too much. He finally gets up. Dazai picks up some clean clothes along with a binder and then moves into Chuya's bathroom. As he washes his face and brushes his teeth, Dazai keeps looking into the mirror at the bottom right corner above the sink. He knows what he'll see in it: a face on a body. Neither will look like they belong to him, even though nothing's changed since yesterday. He could ask anyone, they'd just say he'd look the same as always. Still, there's just something wrong, and he can't pinpoint it exactly. He's just stuck on the thought. It plays on a loop in his brain. Dazai feels like a faulty mechanism inside of a wax statue. The wax had melted and dozens of hands touched the surface of the doll, dragging dragging around portions of the wax and leaving them in the wrong places. Another set of hands dragged along the doll's face, messing up its features, making it look not quite right, leaving him disfigured. So, Dazai avoids facing himself. He doesn't have the time to shower, so he just uses some wet wipes to freshen up. The bumps and ridges of his skin under his fingertips can be felt through the thin tissues, and it makes him want to scratch himself until his body is raw and clean. Disgusting. How can Chuya even stand the sight of him? Dazai skips the bandages as he usually does at Chuya's, gets himself into a binder, trying not to pay attention to the fact that his chest isn't completely flat, even with the garment on. He throws on a random t-shirt and a pair of black sweatpants before exiting the bathroom quickly. The hardwood floors make no sound as he treads the path into Chuya's kitchen. The apartment is empty, and that only makes Dazai feel relieved. If Chuya were here, he'd immediately notice something was off with Dazai. He'd get all worried and fussy. He'd try to ask what happened, and how he could help, and whether or not Dazai wanted him to help or not. All the healthy, caring partnership. Dazai doesn't need that. He wants to be left alone. What an ungrateful thing to think. You're just a spoiled piece of... Dazai reaches for the counter, where his gaze falls onto a sticky note from Chuya. I made some steamed eggs for you. Oven. And cut up some salmon. Fridge. Bottom shelf. Please eat something. Love you. Chuya had taken time to make him breakfast. Dazai should have woken up and helped. There's also a tiny blue plastic box placed beside the note. It contains Dazai's medication that has to be taken every morning. 2 pills. Dazai can't be trusted with the entire bottle. He's seeing as how he tried to overdose a couple of times in the past. He can recall almost none of the attempts, only remembering making Chuya cry. Chibi is so nice to him, and that's how he gets repaid. Dazai takes out the food. Even though he's not hungry enough, he places it in his usual spot on Chuya's table. They always eat breakfast together unless Chuya has direct orders from the boss to come in and work earlier. His partner is always there for him, maybe because he noticed Dazai's attitude towards eating. He should have tried harder to act normal. Chuya doesn't need another problem on his list. He already overworks himself and worries too much. He shouldn't have to deal with Dazai's baggage. He throws back the pills and takes 2 gulps of water. Perhaps all the buzzing in his head will quiet down now. He stands there, leaning back onto the counter with his arms crossed, looking out of the window and staring at nothing in particular. Just cars, fuzzy by the edges, and blurry silhouettes of people moving and out of his sight. Moving in and out of his sight. Dazai snapped out of it when an ambulance silence wailed somewhere near. He didn't register how long he had been unfocused for. As he sat on the opposite side of his partner's usual seat, Dazai felt a bit of saliva collect in his mouth. It's a natural reflexes, he knows that, but... Are you a fucking animal or something? Can't you control yourself? A white-knuckled grip of his hand on the edge of the table. His stomach grumbled. Do you really need this food? Are you just going to stuff it all down like your throat like the pig that you are, and then have it degrade and rot in your intestines for hours? The first wave of nausea. Does your body need it to function? Oh, so you want that? You want to live? Filthy liar. Dazai makes an attempt to breathe out deeply, to steady his heartbeat. In 2, 3, out 2, 3. And he repeats it in a desperate attempt to fight off a panic attack. He feels his chest constrict and his ribcage barely opening with each shuddering breath. There's a burning in his throat and hundreds of tiny ants crawling around under his skin. He starts rocking backward and forward, remembering that it's usually calms him down when Chuya holds him and they move together. But now he's alone. Dazai feels his sweatpants stretch at the knees. His spine is creased a bit between his chest and his stomach. His t-shirt slipping off his shoulders slightly and constricting his movements ever so slightly. He has to get away. He runs into Chuya's bedroom and rummages through his clothes in a drawer that his partner had cleared out for him when he moved in. Dazai takes a carefully hidden blade and, now fully hyperventilating, gets into the bathroom. The ceramic tiles are easier to clean. He takes his shirt and pants off, brings the blade to the area just above his hip bone and slashes, heaping desperate breaths, again and again. He continues almost on autopilot. The repetitive motions help and the pain soothe him a predictable outcome. Every cell in his brain concentrates on the pain. Nothing else, no room for hatred, for helplessness, for self-destruction, for anxiety, or for guilt. There's only a singular thought: it hurts. Dazai looks up to see a person with blood dripping down their ribs and down their thigh, tiny rivers flowing all the way down to the floor. He continues damaging the body in the mirror, slowing down now, but not stopping yet. He's shocked enough for it to sound slightly like fabric ripping, not human skin. The numbness kicks in. It only lasts for a few minutes though, because Dazai feels the burning pain pulsating from where he cut a bit too deep. His nervous system is an overload, but he can handle this type of pain. He inflicted it on himself. He knows what the consequences are. He had to learn to ignore his senses. Now that skill comes in handy once more. Pain is easier to push down. After some time, he's not sure how long he had been standing there, staring at the puddles on the floor. Dazai becomes more present and realizes that he didn't pick up any gauze or bandages on his way to the bathroom. Sloppy. He pats down his injuries with his t-shirt and stands there for a bit, waiting for the blood to clog fully, so that he doesn't ruin Chuya's floors while he's looking for medical supplies. Ah shit, he's gonna make Chuya sad again. Dazai's brain is still a little slow from the blood loss as he treads through the apartment to get his stack of bandages and a bottle of hydrogen peroxide. There's a picture on the wall above the drawers. They were both 17 there, late spring. Dazai sitting on a bench in the shade of a large tree. One of his hands untangling Chuya's hair, while the other boy lies in his lap, eyes closed. One of the first more comfortable silences, just existing together without pretending to hate it. That photograph is one of the only things Dazai brought when Chuya asked him to move back in then, before he defected. Chuya's reasoning for the proposal was that no human should live in an empty shipping container, Dazai, along with, I don't want to have to take care of you when you inevitably get sick in the winter. Chuya's going to be disappointed when he finds out Dazai relapsed. Upon grabbing what he needs, Dazai went back to the bathroom. He can't claim to feel completely calm and collected, and add the feeling of grossed out and guilty and quite self-pitying. That would be closer to the truth. Still, all those are on the back burner of his mind for now, and he'll take that over full-on breakdown. Dazai sprays disinfectant and gets to bandaging his fresh wounds. His hands moving expertly, but in a detached manner. He spends more time cleaning the blood off the bathroom tiles, scraping it from the tiny cracks, making sure to leave nothing leave nothing as clean as it was before, and leave it as clean as it was before. As Zaza shuffles, just as Zaza stuffs the bloodied and rags and gauze bundled up in a plastic bag into his drawer to take care of later and cover it up with some clothes, he hears it, a jingle of keys followed by an opening of the door. Chuya. Daza is glad that his partner's back and is overcome with guilt at the same time. The redhead moves quietly, as he takes off his coat and boots, thinking that maybe Daza went back to sleep. He's been trying to help Daza fix his sleeping schedule since it is, admittedly, a wreck. But they are both yet to see results. The brunette hides the evidence of his questionable mental state and treads out of the room towards the hallway. Chuya. He drawls out the last syllable, acting bratty like he usually does. You left me all alone in this cold apartment? How could you? Good. His voice rings out a familiar playful tone, as if nothing happened. Chuya caresses his cheek and ruffles his hair. Hey, not fair. It's not like I wanted to go, the redhead says as he goes to wash his hands, and Daza follows him into the bathroom. Anyway, the job ended up being kind of boring, he continues. Daza fidgets with his sleeves behind his back, running through every nook and cranny with his eyes, checking for any spot he could have missed. He doesn't notice when the water stopped running or when Chuya stopped telling him about that job, until he feels a warm hand on his shoulder. Hey, you alright? Keep it to yourself, you're tiring him out. Daza looks into Chuya's eyes to see he's completely focused on him, ready for an answer. So he lies. Yes, maybe I should have slept a little longer though. Could you repeat, everything you said? A small smile on Chuya's lips contracted into a worried gaze, but he squeezes Daza's shoulder gently and grabs his hand. Sure, but I'm starving. Have you eaten anything yet? Shit. No, I wasn't really hungry. Are you even trying to hide it? You're a better liar than that. Okay, do you want to eat that breakfast or I could just prepare something else for lunch? No. I'll eat the food that Chibi so kindly made for me, like the good housewife he is. It would be a waste otherwise. Daza avoids being hit on the chest, even though the punch has barely any force in it, by grabbing Chuya's fist and then adding fuel to the fire, because why not? He plants a kiss on top of it. They've been together for almost 5 years, but stuff like this never failed to make the redhead flustered. Daza loves the shade of pink that dusts Chuya's cheeks, and how his mouth opens a bit in surprise. As if he didn't realize how privileged Daza feels to be able to touch him like that, to be able to feel his own hand with no gloves. How honoured he feels to watch Chuya peel vegetables in an old t-shirt and pajama shorts with hair tied in a hasty, uneven ponytail. For Daza to crack a joke while Chuya is drinking just to see him spill some of the water over himself and get all mad. To see his skin in the warm afternoon light of the kitchen, fiery red lashes casting shadows over the freckled cheekbones, a mole under his right eye, under his brown eye, acne scars along his jaw, waiting with his eyes closed as the water comes to a boil on the stove. He hears his voice so expensive and rough around the edges, but soothing to Daza's brain like nothing in the world could ever be. Daza should probably actually listen to the words that the redhead is saying, but he's too busy being in love to comprehend that he's just sitting there, looking up to his partner with puppy dog eyes. Chuya places a bowl with something seeming in it on the table before Darzai and one in front for himself. Darzai steps out of it. You weren't listening again, were you, Mackerel? Darzai digs his nails into his thighs under the table, feeling a few of his wounds getting reopened. He couldn't even pay attention to what Chuya was saying. How is he such a useless partner? The steam rises over a bowl of steamed eggs over rice with a couple of slices of salted salmon. He stares at the food and imagines the weight of it in his stomach. Before Darzai can lock himself into another vigorous cycle, Chuya pulls his chair to sit closer and puts his hand over Darzai's clenched hands under the table. Are you sure you're okay, Darzai? He asks as he tries to make eye contact with his partner. Darzai nods dumbly without looking up, without uttering a word. Do you want me to feed it for you? Chuya asks and reaches for Darzai's chopsticks, but he doesn't grab them without permission. The way that he says it, like it's just something that he wants to do, not out of pity, not out of obligation. The question wasn't weighted with assumptions or judgment. The brunette nods again. It's easy with Chuya, giving in and letting himself be cared for. Even though he knows he doesn't deserve it, even though he knows Chuya is exhausted by his never-ending problems, and will eventually get sick of his constant neediness, and he'll make Darzai leave. And he'll make Chuya leave. The way that Darzai has to take a moment to make himself swallow the bite of food Chuya offered is noticeable. In hopes to distract his partner a little bit, Chuya decides to keep talking, hoping that it'll be enough for Darzai to feel a little more comfortable. Remember when you made me do this that time you broke your arm after barely turning 16? Darzai chews on the piece of fish slowly and listens. Of course he remembers. It was the first time Chuya showed him that he can be viewed as a human, as someone who can be cared for. I fed you for 2 goddamn months, and even though you could do it perfectly fine with your left hand, Chuya holds up a bit of omelette for Darzai to take. You didn't even seem to mind when people were staring at us whenever we went out to eat. Darzai accepts another bite of food, keeping his mind concentrated on Chuya's voice. Still, you refuse to eat anything that came from unless it came from my hand. You didn't let anyone else help you either, only me. A third of the bowl is left. Darzai looks away, seeing the food disappearing is bound to make him feel nauseous again, and that won't end well. Of course, I played along. I couldn't have my partner get all thin and weak and eventually die on me. Darzai swallows and looks up to see the last part to find Chuya already watching him with teary eyes. The redhead continues. I may never understand what it feels like to live with a brain like yours, but I do get what it's like to not be able to keep something, to feel like your body and you exist separately. Chuya pauses a bit to clear his throat, blinking his tears away. What I'm trying to say is, please ask me anything you want or need or have to do. You don't have to do it. You don't have to be in it alone. Please tell me. I don't want to come out here one day and not find you here. Don't. The silence clings on the walls and floors of the room, one of the few uncomfortable ones between them. You're just going to make it worse. The hell do you think what the hell do you even expect? Do you want help? Can't you fucking deal with your own mind? Can't fucking deal with your own mind? Pathetic piece of rotten meat. Darzai's confession falls heavy to the ground and shatters in the suffocating quiet. I've relapsed. He doesn't dare to look at his partner in the eye, for the fear of seeing a sickening face looking back at him. Would serve you right, getting what you deserve for once. 1 heartbeat, 2 heartbeats, 3. Chuya's arms wrap around him and the dam breaks. No, this isn't right. Chuya should be disappointed. Dazai hides his face in the crook of Chuya's shoulders as the redhead caresses the sobs out of him with a gentle hand running up and down his spine. The touch is warm and firm on his skin. It doesn't let Dazai slip away from his body. It doesn't let him ignore the present. Chuya just keeps holding him, no invasive questions, no anger directed towards Dazai for breaking a promise yet again. So, the wailing doesn't stop. He can't make himself stop. Why can't he? Dazai grits his teeth and pulls away with a growl. Aren't you mad, Chuya? I fucked up again. The sorrow and hatred in his own eyes doesn't let him see the glimmer of tears in Chuya. The redhead puts his palms to the side of Dazai's face, keeping him close enough to feel his breath on his skin. Dazai takes a hold of his partner's wrists, but doesn't move away yet. How can Chuya touch him without feeling disgusted? How can he even look at him after what Dazai confessed to? Why? Why can't you see? I'm back to where I started. He snarls, hoping to rile Chuya up, hoping that his partner would hurt him, begging for it almost, even when he knows perfectly well that Chuya wouldn't do that. He remembers that winter night when Chuya swore to never hurt him again, after he saw a bruise he left over Dazai's spatula? I'm just assuming that's similar on the body. They were 16 and a pair of unstable, scared kids who didn't know any better, weren't shown how to be better, but they were figuring it out along the way, together, and eventually, they learned how to keep each other. So now, Chuya answers with just a soft, I love you. Dazai stares at him in disbelief. I'm not a good person, Chuya. I'm barely a person at all. I love you. And I'm not getting any better. He spits out, louder this time, I love you. I'm hurting you, and I'm wearing you out. One hand goes down to the back of his neck to keep him close. Chuya shakes his head and looks Dazai straight in his eyes. I love you. Don't you get it? Are you really that fucking stupid? Leave me, he screams in his partner's face. The redhead brings their foreheads together. I love you. Dazai lets out another sob and Chuya wipes away a tear with his thumb. I'm giving you a way out of this mess, Chuya. Fucking take it. A sob breaks through Dazai's clenched teeth. I love you. Leave me. The scream turned into a whisper. I love you, Chuya says with the same amount of determination as the first time. Please. One last attempt before he gives up. Chuya is still holding him, and Dazai feels as secure and safe in his partner's arms as he always does. However, now his mind actually lets him feel safety without doubting it. There was never any reason for doing that anyway. I love you, a kiss on the cheek. I love you, a kiss over the eyelids. I love you, a kiss on his forehead. I love you, a kiss on his nose, jaw, and temple. You're not hurting me, Dazai. He's lying to make your sorry ass feel better. Osamu, look at me. Dazai opens his eyes slowly to see the tea tracks glistening his partner's perfect face. Chuya sniffles and continues with, there's nothing you could do that could make me want to leave you. Nothing. Do you hear that? Dazai simply stares at the redhead, his throat too raw to speak yet. I'm not giving up on you ever. You're not going to ever be alone again. I don't get you. I'm hard to love, Chuya. And it doesn't even pay off. It pains Chuya to hear how little Dazai thinks of himself, to be unable to do anything about it. Dazai was hurt too many times. He knows that for sure. He knows that. Sure, he got out. He found a place for himself in the light, where he doesn't have to sacrifice parts of his humanity in order to survive. But getting through all that darkness still has costs. Chuya knows that. Loving you feels as natural as breathing, and I know you love me just as I know the sun will go down tonight and rise up again tomorrow. It's you, it's me. Oh, hang on. The redhead shrugs like he just said the most obvious thing in the world, and then continues. It's you, it's me, it's us, no matter what. You have to believe in that. Look at all the shit we've been through already, yet both of us chose to stay. Chuya takes hold of Darkseid's hand and presses it to his chest, palm first over his heart. I know you wouldn't give up on me if the roles were reversed, so I would accept the fact that the devotion goes both ways, equally. Evening light bathes everything in the room with warmth. This should have been a quiet day, one spent with small touches and shared spaces, lazy kisses, and long conversations about nothing in particular. Darkseid wants to so badly be able to experience that. He's willing to try, over and over, but he doesn't know if he will be able to handle it, hearing his bones break when he inevitably fails. Chuya somehow keeps trying though. It must hurt for him sometimes too. Maybe doing this together, really together, can make it easier on both of them. Obviously, just being with the other won't magically fix all his problems. Darkseid isn't that naive. But it could probably make him feel at least a bit easier to deal with. Knowing that even when Darkseid loses himself, at some point, he can always rely on Chuya to find him and lead him back to safety. Knowing that he is loved unconditionally and effortlessly could help him try to be more true to himself, to take off at least a few of his masks and find the look in the mirror. That's a start, if anything. Darkseid leads into the redhead, his arms wrapped around his partner's waist. Chuya buries his face in the brunette's hair before softly asking, "Did you take care of your wounds?" "Yeah." "Good," Chuya says before kissing the top of Darkseid's head. They sit there for a while, until the sky begins to darken. Darkseid speaks first, voice rough, some parts of his words barely turning into audible whispers. "Your food's probably cold now." He hears a light chuckle from above him, and a small kiss at the top of his head a kiss at the top of his head follows. It's good anyway. Darkseid moves a bit away from Chuya, but keeps holding onto one of his hands with both of his. Chuya eats his food quickly and has to get up to clean the kitchen. Darkseid dries the dishes that Chuya washes with a towel and sweeps the floor, while Chuya wipes the table and changes the water in the vase of flowers Darkseid got him just a few days ago. Chuya turns on the kettle, planning to make himself some chamomile tea for both him and his partner, for his partner and himself. He watches Darkseid look out the window, where he stands leaning against the windowsill. Fluorescent store lights shine through the dark, sparks of colour being reflected on Darkseid's heavy-lidded eyes. He looks exhausted, but at least he's no longer distressed. Chuya comes up to him and hugs his arms around Darkseid's waist from behind, feeling all sharp ribs and hip bones with a soft tummy. The redhead places a kiss between his shoulder blades and whispers, "I'm so grateful that you're here. You make me so happy, Osamu." Another kiss. Chuya tightens his hold a little, remembering that Darkseid once told him that he prefers to be crushed instead of the barely dead type of touch. He feels a of cold hands over his own as Zaza leans back into his partner's warmth a bit. "I love you, Chia," he answers in a small voice. The redhead presses his forehead into Zaza's back, wanting to be as close to his partner as possible. "Let's go to bed, yeah? You look tired." That only earns him a displeased grumble. "But you can barely keep your eyes open." Don't wanna." Chia huffs out a chuckle at that. No use arguing with a grumpy Dazai. "Alright, what do you want to do then?" Dazai takes a moment to respond, but then he says softly, "I want to stay awake with you for some time longer. If I fall asleep, I won't feel you." Oh, and he said that. Yeah, but if Chuya can say sappy shit like that all the time with absolutely no shame, Dazai's allowed to too. "I could put on a movie if you like." Dazai responds with an affirmative whine. He's definitely tired. Chuya taps his waist twice, so Dazai turns around and jumps onto the windowsill. He wraps his arms around Chuya's neck and his legs around Chuya's hips, as the redhead secures him in a hold and picks him up with ease. Having successfully turned into an overgrown koala, the brunette clings onto his partner as he moves them into the lounge room and onto the couch. Dazai grabs a blanket from where it was thrown over the back of the sofa and covers them both up with it. Chuya had to lay down with his upper back against the arm of the couch because somebody started whining when he suggested to change their positions. So now that someone sits with his lap with his head in the crook of the redhead's shoulder, breathing out a content sigh. "What should I put on?" He barely got to finish the sentence. "I love dogs, please," Dazai mumbles into the redhead's shoulder. Wow, that was quick, but who am I to say no to a please? They watched this particular movie around 4 times already, all in the past 3 months. It makes Dazai happy for reasons he doesn't want to share yet, although Chuya has his suspicions. Dazai feels Chuya's heart beating against his sternum, the rhythmic pattern soothing his brain as the movie plays out on the screen. Dazai finds his partner's hand and brings it to his lips. He doesn't let it go afterwards, but intertwines their fingers. "Crap, I forgot our tea," Chuya says a little voice a little muffled by Dazai's hair. "I'm not getting off." Dazai is way too tired to move. Plus, he didn't want to let his partner go. A kiss is pressed to the top of his head. Chuya drifts off after some time, soft snores filling the room. He felt his hand go where it was gently scratching Dazai's scalp. A few tears glistened in Dazai's lashes. Maybe it's a damn movie. Maybe it's the warmth and care he feels while being in Chuya's arms. Maybe it's their hands intertwined, one scarred and the other calloused. Maybe it's something that Dazai doesn't have to name or understand. He lets the tears fall without feeling ashamed or angry at himself, and keeps his eyes open, trying not to give in to the temptation of sleep, trying to make this peaceful feeling last at least a little bit longer. Okay, that was that one shot. I loved it. I have this thing where I read out like sad text, like sad voice acting lines. I physically tear up, and like I almost physically cry during every single recording that has like sappy and like sad scenes. So yeah, that's a thing. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to read the actual fic in the description below. I really love this one. And anyway, I'll see you guys next time. See ya.